I am Armida, a 32-year-old software engineer with 10 years in tech. Working at Technova, our AI startup had promise, but respect was another story. When our CEO Jason introduced me as our glorified sysadmin during the investor pitch, I felt my soul shrink. Then something incredible happened. Michael, the lead investor, simply said, "I will take her." He slid back the term sheet, adding, "Our $15 million is contingent on her being named CTO. We can wait." Before I continue this story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button to support women in tech. My journey to that pivotal moment began long before I joined Technova. I graduated from MIT with a computer science degree, finishing with honors, despite being one of only 14 women in my program of 60 students. The challenges started early. Group projects where my contributions were questioned. Professors who seemed surprised when I aced exams, classmates who assumed I was there to fill some diversity quota. But I proved myself through code, through solutions, through results that couldn't be denied. After graduation, I landed a position at DataSphere, a well-established tech company where I cut my teeth on large-scale systems. 3 years there taught me how corporate tech worked, both the technical aspects and the often frustrating politics. I moved on to Future Tech, a smaller but innovative company where I specialized in AI and machine learning systems. My work there caught attention in the industry, particularly my framework for optimizing neural networks that became widely adopted. That reputation is what brought Jason Porter to my door 2 years ago. The founder and CEO of Technova, a promising startup developing an AI predictive analytics platform, Jason painted an exciting picture of building something revolutionary. "We need someone with your expertise," he told me over coffee at an upscale San Francisco cafe. "Someone who understands where AI is going and can help us build something that changes how businesses make decisions." His enthusiasm was infectious. Jason had vision, charisma, and seemed to genuinely value technical excellence. The offer came with decent equity, though the salary was lower than my current position. "Early days," Jason explained. "But when we hit it big, that equity will be worth millions." It was the classic startup promise, but I believed in the technology and the opportunity to build something from the ground up. The first 6 months were everything I hoped for. Technova was small then. Just Jason, Diane Weber, the COO, 2 other engineers, and me. We worked long hours in a cramped office fueled by takeout and ambition. Jason and I would whiteboard ideas together, debate approaches, and get genuinely excited about the technical challenges we were solving. The platform we were building would analyze vast datasets to predict business trends with unprecedented accuracy, helping companies make better strategic decisions. The company grew quickly. Our initial seed funding let us expand to 15 employees. Early demos impressed potential clients and investors alike. Within 18 months, we had grown to 45 people, including a sales team led by Trevor Hudson, a marketing department under Amanda Clark, and my engineering team that had expanded to 18 people. As Technova grew, so did Jason's ego. The collaborative leader who valued my input gradually transformed into someone who saw technical details as beneath him. The first sign came during a presentation to potential investors. I had stayed up 3 nights straight perfecting an algorithm that was the heart of our platform. When an investor asked how it worked, Jason launched into an explanation, as if it were his creation, never acknowledging my work. "That was amazing," I told him afterward. "You explained it perfectly." He just nodded. "I have to understand every aspect of the business. That is what CEOs do." It became a pattern. My suggestions in meetings would be dismissed only to resurface later as Jason's ideas. Technical successes were credited to leadership vision, while failures were blamed on execution issues in the engineering team. When I raised concerns about scalability problems, Jason told me I was being unnecessarily cautious. 3 weeks later, when our system crashed during a demo for our biggest potential client, he asked me in front of everyone, "How did engineering let this happen?" That night, I worked 20 straight hours rebuilding the architecture to fix the issues I had warned about. We saved the client relationship, but when Jason announced the good news to the company, He simply said, "Our team pulled together and made it happen." No mention of who actually solved the problem, or whose warnings had been ignored. Despite the lack of recognition, my responsibilities continued to grow. I was effectively leading the entire engineering team, making all key architecture decisions, training new engineers, creating technical presentations for clients, and developing the product roadmap, all without the appropriate title or compensation. Several times I considered leaving, but I had invested too much of myself in Technova. The technology we were building was genuinely innovative, and I felt responsible for the team I had built. Many of them had joined specifically because they wanted to work with me. Walking away felt like abandoning them. By our second year, Technova faced a financial crunch. Our burn rate had increased with our headcount, and while we had several paying clients, we were still far from profitability. The runway was shrinking to just 2 months of operating expenses. Previous investors were hesitant to continue funding without seeing clearer paths to revenue growth. That is when Reynolds Capital entered the picture. One of the most prestigious venture capital firms in Silicon Valley, they were known for making careful bets on technologies they believed could transform industries. If we could secure their $15 million investment, it would give us runway for 18 more months. Enough time to scale our client base and reach profitability. The pressure to land this deal affected everyone but Jason most of all. His anxiety manifested as micromanagement and shifting blame. In the weeks leading up to the pitch, he demanded daily updates on every aspect of the platform, often changing direction on features that were nearly complete. "You will be there as backup for technical questions," Jason told me about the upcoming pitch. "But I will handle the presentation. Investors respond to leadership." Despite being relegated to backup, I spent weeks preparing materials that Jason would present. The night before the pitch, I stayed until 3 in the morning, creating detailed technical documentation that Jason had suddenly decided we needed. As I drove home in the dark, exhausted but determined to support the company, I never imagined how dramatically things were about to change. The morning of the pitch arrived with a knot of anxiety in my stomach. I dressed carefully in a navy blue blazer and matching slacks, professional without trying too hard. After triple-checking the presentation materials and rehearsing answers to potential technical questions, I grabbed my laptop and headed to the office. I arrived to find Jason already there, unusually early, making last-minute changes to the slide deck. I reworked the technical architecture slide he announced without looking up. It was too complicated. Investors want big picture, not details. I glanced at his simplified version that had removed most of the innovative aspects of our approach. "But those details are what make our solution unique," I pointed out. Jason sighed with exaggerated patience. "Armida, I have done dozens of these pitches. Trust me on this." The ride to Reynolds Capital was tense. Jason rehearsed his opening lines while Diane reviewed financial projections. Trevor, our head of sales, kept suggesting more aggressive growth numbers, which Diane quietly adjusted back to realistic figures when he was not looking. "Remember everyone," Jason said, as our car approached the gleaming high-rise housing Reynolds Capital. "Follow my lead. I know these people and how they think." The Reynolds Capital offices occupied the top floor of one of San Francisco's most prestigious buildings with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering panoramic views of the bay. The reception area featured modern furniture and walls displaying tech companies they had successfully backed, many now household names. We were led to a sleek conference room where 4 people waited for us. Michael Reynolds himself sat at the head of the table, a legendary investor, known for spotting real technical talent beneath the marketing hype. Beside him was Amelia Harrison, their technical partner, who had built and sold her own tech company before joining the VC firm. 2 junior associates, Thomas and Rachel, completed the team tablets, ready to take notes on every aspect of our presentation. Jason launched into his pitch with the charisma that had attracted so many to Technova. He moved smoothly through the slides, emphasizing market opportunity and growth potential. The investors asked standard questions about business model and competitive landscape, which Jason handled confidently. Then came the technical portion. Michael leaned forward slightly, his interest visibly increasing. Your approach to predictive modeling sounds interesting, he said. Can you elaborate on how you are handling the multidimensional aspect of time series data? Jason began a general answer, but Michael politely interrupted. Perhaps your technical lead could address this. All eyes turned to me. I explained our unique approach to dimensional reduction while maintaining predictive power, the specific challenges we had overcome with sparse datasets, and our method for balancing accuracy with computational efficiency. Michael nodded thoughtfully. Amelia asked a follow-up question about our handling of anomalous data points. I detailed our three-tiered filtering system that I had developed specifically for this problem. As the technical questions continued, I found myself engaged in a deep discussion with Michael and Amelia, while Jason sat increasingly rigid beside me. I could feel his tension, but was too focused on accurately representing our technology to worry about his ego. And who leads your technical team, Michael? Finally asked, looking at Jason. Jason gave a dismissive gesture toward me. This is Armida, our glorified sysadmin, he said with a laugh. She keeps the technical side running while I focus on the big picture. Trevor chuckled on cue. Amanda gave a tight smile. Diane maintained her diplomatic poker face. The words hit me like a physical blow. Glorified sysadmin. After 2 years of building their entire platform, after countless late nights and weekends, after solving problems no one else could, I forced myself to maintain a professional expression, but inside I was devastated. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Michael's penetrating gaze moved from Jason to me, then back to Jason. Amelia's expression had cooled noticeably. I see, Michael said finally. He looked directly at me for a long moment, then turned to Jason. Your technology is impressive. The market opportunity is clear. Jason's confident smile returned. We are ready to scale with the right partner. Then Michael simply said, I will take her. Jason blinked. Excuse me. Michael slid the term sheet that had been sitting in front of him back across the table. Our $15 million is contingent on her being named Chief Technology Officer. We can wait. The room froze. Jason's smile remained fixed on his face, but his eyes registered panic. Diane looked calculatingly between Jason and the investors. Trevor and Amanda exchanged alarmed glances. I am not sure I understand, Jason said, his voice strained. Armida is a valued team member, but our executive structure is well established. Then perhaps we should end the meeting here, Amelia said, calmly closing her laptop. No, Jason backtracked quickly. I am sure we can discuss this. Maybe we have been considering some reorganization already. Michael stood. Take the weekend to consider. We will expect your answer by Monday. The meeting ended abruptly with awkward handshakes and forced pleasantries. As we gathered our materials to leave, Michael caught my eye briefly. There was something in his look. Not pity exactly, but recognition, like he had seen this story before. The elevator ride down was silent. I stood in the corner, still processing what had happened. Had I just been humiliated and vindicated in the span of 5 minutes? What would happen next? And most unsettling of all, did I even want the role, if it came through such an ultimatum? The car ride back to the office was suffocating in its silence. Jason stared out the window, jaw clenched. Trevor checked his phone with exaggerated interest. Diane made notes in her planner as if nothing unusual had happened. Nobody acknowledged me at all. As soon as we arrived at the office, Jason marched directly to his glass-walled corner space. Executive team meeting. My office. Now he announced pointedly, looking at Diane and Trevor, deliberately excluding me. I returned to my desk in the open workspace where the engineering team. Saturday I tried to focus on code reviews, but my mind kept replaying the meeting, the casual dismissal, the unexpected defense, the ultimatum that now hung over all of us. 20 minutes later, Amanda walked past my desk. Jason wants you in his office, she said without stopping her tone, making it clear this was not good news. I entered to find the executive team mid-discussion. Jason sat behind his desk while Diane and Trevor occupied the 2 chairs facing him. Amanda leaned against the wall, arms crossed. A chair had been placed slightly apart from the others, clearly my assigned position. "This is absurd," Jason was saying as I sat down. "Reynolds cannot dictate our management structure." "They can if we want their 15 million, Diane replied matter-of-factly. "And we need that money." Trevor leaned forward aggressively. "We can find other investors. We do not need to be pushed around by Michael Reynolds." Diane consulted her planner. "Our runway ends in 7 weeks. Finding and closing with a new investor typically takes 3 to 6 months." "What about our existing investors?" Trevor asked. "I have already approached them," Diane said. "They are waiting to see what Reynolds does. No one wants to lead this round." Jason turned to me, his expression a mix of anger and calculation. "This puts us in an awkward position, Armida. Reynolds seems to have taken a strange interest in your role." I maintained a neutral expression. It was unexpected to me, too. "The real question," Amanda interjected, "is whether Armida even has the leadership experience to be CTO. No offense, but managing people is different from writing code." I had to fight to keep my composure. I had been leading the 18-person engineering team for over a year, handling everything from architecture decisions to performance reviews. Amanda knew this perfectly well. "We could consider a compromise," Diane suggested. "Perhaps a title change to satisfy the investors while maintaining our current operational structure." "You mean, give her the title without the authority or compensation?" Trevor asked, not bothering to hide his smirk. "It would be temporary," Jason said, warming to the idea. "Just until we secure the funding and grow a bit more. Then we could bring in a more experienced CTO." They continued discussing me as if I were not sitting right there. How to placate the investors while changing as little as possible. How to minimize my influence while using my technical abilities. How to give the appearance of promoting me without actually empowering me. Finally, I spoke up. "I have been effectively functioning as CTO for the past year. I lead the entire engineering organization. I make all key architecture decisions. I developed the product roadmap that was in today's presentation." Jason's expression hardened. "Being a C-level executive is about more than technical skills, Armida. It requires business acumen, leadership presence, strategic thinking." "All of which you have demonstrated," Diane noted quietly, earning a sharp look from Jason. "The point is," Jason continued, "this is a complex situation created by an unusual demand from an investor. We need to handle it carefully." He checked his watch. "Let us table this for now and regroup tomorrow. I need to call our board members to discuss options." As the meeting broke up, Jason asked me to stay behind. When the others had left, he closed the door, and his demeanor changed. The anger was replaced by a more manipulative approach. "Armida, we have built something special here, together." He began leaning against his desk in a calculated, casual pose. "This company is like family to me. I am sure it is to you too." I nodded noncommittally. "This situation with Reynolds puts us in a difficult position. If we do not get this funding, we might have to let people go. Your team members. People who count on their jobs." The implicit threat was clear. If I pushed for the CTO role, I would be responsible for potential layoffs. "What I can offer is this," Jason continued. "We give you the title of CTO on a temporary basis to satisfy the investors. You continue reporting to me, as you do now. We can add a small equity grant, say an additional 1%, to compensate for the extra responsibility. For context, CTOs at our stage typically received 5 to 10% equity. I currently had 2%. You would continue focusing on the technical implementation while I handle the strategic direction," he explained. "Then, in 6 to 12 months, when we are more stable, we revisit the structure." "And if the investors ask about my actual role and authority?" I asked. "We will manage that messaging carefully," he said with a dismissive wave. "The important thing is securing the funding so we can all keep building Technova." I realized Jason had no intention of truly making me CTO. This was just another manipulation. "I need to think about this," I said. Jason frowned slightly. There is not much to think about, Armida. This is the sensible path forward for everyone. Nevertheless, I will give you my answer tomorrow, I insisted, standing to leave. Do what is best for the company, he called after me, his final attempt to leverage my loyalty against my self-interest. I stayed late at the office that night, long after everyone else had left. The empty workspace gave me space to think, without the weight of watchful eyes. I paced between desks, weighing my options. Did I even want the CTO role under these circumstances? Would Jason make my life miserable? If I accepted, would the company culture become toxic? But if I declined, would I continue to be undervalued and unrecognized? And what about the claimed engineering team I had built? Did I owe it to them to stay and advocate for their work? Around 9 o'clock, Beth from my engineering team returned to the office to retrieve her forgotten laptop. Finding me still there, she asked what was wrong. Before I knew it, I was telling her about the investor meeting and its aftermath. That is outrageous, Beth said when I finished. But not surprising. You know, the entire engineering team already sees you as our leader, right? The org chart is just catching up to reality. As we talked, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. When I answered, a female voice said, Armida, this is Amelia Harrison from Reynolds Capital. Michael Reynolds would like to meet with you privately tomorrow morning. Are you available at 8:30? My heart raced. Yes, I said, before I could overthink it. Good, Amelia replied. The Blue Bottle Coffee on Howard Street. Just you, please. As I hung up, Beth raised her eyebrows questioningly. I think I need to hear what the investors have to say, I told her, before I make any decisions. That night I barely slept. By morning I had no clear plan, just a determination to advocate for my worth for perhaps the first time in my career. Blue Bottle Coffee on Howard Street was busy with the morning rush when I arrived at 8:25. I spotted Michael and Amelia immediately seated in a corner table away from the main crowd. Michael wore a casual gray sweater rather than yesterday's suit, while Amelia looked sharp in a simple black turtleneck that reminded me of the classic Silicon Valley uniform. Armida, thank you for coming, Michael said, standing to greet me. Please join us. I sat down, conscious of the power imbalance. These people controlled $15 million that could make or break Technova, and by extension my career. I imagine yesterday was uncomfortable for you, Amelia said directly. We did not intend to put you in an awkward position, but we felt it was necessary. Why? I asked simply. Michael smiled slightly. I have been doing this for 26 years. The moment I walk into a pitch meeting, I start looking for the real value creator. Often it is not the person doing most of the talking. We saw the dynamic immediately, Amelia added. The technical questions we asked were deliberate. We wanted to see who truly understood the product. It is not that Jason is not valuable, Michael clarified. He has built a decent company and attracted good talent, you being the primary example. But we invest in technology first, business models second, and people above all. The truth is, Amelia continued, your technical approach is what interests us about Technova. The way you have solved the multivariate correlation problem is genuinely innovative. Your architecture choices show remarkable foresight about scaling challenges. Michael nodded. When we compare Technova's approach to competitors like Predictify and Analytics Now, your technical foundation is superior. But that advantage will erode quickly without the right leadership. I was surprised by their level of technical understanding. Most investors I had encountered barely scratched the surface of how our technology actually worked. Let me share something personal, Amelia said, leaning forward. My first company, CloudSecure, was built on technology I developed. I brought in a business partner who became CEO. He was charismatic, good with investors similar to Jason. She paused, taking a sip of her coffee. Over time, my contributions were minimized. My ideas implemented without credit. My team gradually moved under other leaders. When we were acquired, he was hailed as the visionary founder. I was barely mentioned in the press release. Her story hit uncomfortably close to home. I left with good money, but felt hollow about the whole experience, she continued. I started my next company as CEO and CTO. It was much more successful, and not coincidentally, had a much healthier culture. We sold it to Amazon for nearly $1 billion. Michael picked up the thread. We see similar patterns repeatedly. Technical founders or early employees who are the true value creators but get sidelined. We have learned to spot it, and in Technova's case, it is particularly obvious. They proceeded to discuss specific technical elements of our platform that impressed them, including several innovations I had implemented that Jason had never fully understood. They highlighted scaling challenges we would face that I had been raising internally for months without traction. Here is our concern, Michael said frankly. Our investment thesis for Technova depends on technical excellence and innovation. Not just what exists today, but what will be developed over the next 2 to 3 years. Based on what we observed, Amelia added the current power structure puts that at risk. Jason does not have the technical depth to make the right calls, yet he controls the technical direction. More concerning is the culture signal, Michael continued. The glorified sysadmin comment reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of the value you create. That attitude will eventually drive away talent, starting with you but not ending there. I felt seen in a way I had not experienced in my professional life. These virtual strangers had identified in one meeting what I had been experiencing for 2 years. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. A proper CTO role, Amelia said firmly. Board seat. Competitive compensation including significant equity, clear authority over technical decisions and team. Resources to expand your engineering organization as needed. It sounded like everything I should have had already. And if I am not interested, I asked, playing devil's advocate. Then we do not invest, Michael said simply. And to be completely transparent, we would likely approach you about joining one of our portfolio companies that needs strong technical leadership. I felt a rush of validation followed immediately by doubt. What makes you think I am qualified to be a C-level executive? We just met yesterday. Amelia smiled. Imposter syndrome. I know it well. She leaned forward. Who has been making the technical decisions at Technova for the past year? I have, I admitted. Who built and leads the engineering team? I do. Who created the architecture that impressed us enough to consider a $15 million investment? I did not answer, but we all knew. Let me ask you this, Amelia said gently but firmly. Who decided you were not qualified to be called what you already are? The question hit me like a lightning bolt of clarity. For years I had allowed others, professors, colleagues, and finally Jason, to define my worth. I had been doing the job without the recognition, compensation, or authority. I need to be strategic about this, I said finally. If I push for the full CTO role, Jason may make it impossible for me to succeed. Michael nodded. Office politics can be brutal. But remember, you have leverage now. Both our investment and your value to the company. My advice, Amelia offered, is to identify your non-negotiables. What must you have? To be effective in the role, what can you compromise on? And most importantly, what will you do if they refuse? We spent the next hour developing a strategy. I identified potential allies within the company. Diane seemed the most promising. We anticipated Jason's likely counterattacks and prepared responses. I set clear boundaries about compensation authority and reporting structure. As we wrapped up, Amelia gave me her card with her personal cell number written on the back. Call me anytime. I mean that. And regardless of how this plays out with Technova, I would like to stay connected. We need more women leading technical organizations. I left the coffee shop with a new sense of resolve. For the first time, I was not just going to accept whatever was offered. I was going to advocate for what I deserved. I arrived at the office to find Jason had called an all-hands meeting. The entire company was gathered in our largest conference room, with Jason standing at the front looking pleased with himself. As you all know, we had a great meeting with Reynolds Capital yesterday, he began as I slipped into the back of the room. They were very impressed with our technology and our team. We expect to close the funding round soon, which will take Technova to the next level. He paused for the obligatory applause. As part of our growth, we are making some organizational changes. I am pleased to announce that Armida will be taking on the role of technical coordinator, helping to bridge communication between the executive team and our talented engineers. Several people turned to look at me with confused expressions. Technical coordinator, a title that meant nothing, with no clear authority or place in the hierarchy. Armida has been a valuable team member, and this new role recognizes her contributions while helping us scale our organization. Jason continued smoothly. He had not even spoken to me about this. He was attempting to diffuse the investor situation by creating a meaningless title and presenting it as a promotion. When the meeting ended, several engineers came to congratulate me, clearly confused about what my new role actually meant. I thanked them, but declined to elaborate, saying only that details were still being finalized. Jason avoided me for the rest of the morning. Around noon, I received a company-wide email announcing interviews for a new technical director position, clearly his attempt to bring in someone above me. The job description listed qualifications that matched mine exactly, with the addition of 10+ years of leadership experience, a transparent attempt to disqualify me. Over the next 2 days, Jason escalated his strategy. He reassigned 2 of my key projects to other engineers without consulting me. He scheduled strategic planning sessions but conveniently forgot to include me. He began referring to Armida's team as if I only led a small subset of engineering rather than the entire organization. Most concerning were the rumors that began circulating that I had gone behind the company's back to the investors, that I had undermined Jason in the meeting, that I was making demands that threatened the company's future. I knew these had to be coming from Jason or his allies. The engineering team largely saw through these tactics, but it created a tense atmosphere. People began taking sides, with Trevor rallying the sales team against me, while most of engineering remained supportive. Then disaster struck. One of our largest clients, Rapid Retail, was implementing our prediction system for inventory management. They were running a major demo for their executive team when the entire system crashed. Their CIO called Jason in a fury. Jason immediately called an emergency meeting in the largest conference room, where he proceeded to publicly blame my architecture decisions for the failure. "This is exactly why we need more experienced technical leadership," he announced to the gathered team. "These amateur architecture choices are threatening client relationships." I sat silently, absorbing the public humiliation, while my mind raced to identify the actual problem. After the meeting, I pulled Beth aside. "Pull the logs from the past 24 hours. I need to see exactly what happened." What we discovered shocked me. Someone had made unauthorized changes to the production environment. Specifically, they had modified the resource allocation settings I had carefully calibrated. The logs showed the changes came from Jason's account. I spent that night rebuilding the system from backup, reconfiguring the settings correctly, and adding additional safeguards. By morning, I had not only fixed the problem, but had improved the overall stability. I called Rapid Retail's technical team directly and walked them through what had happened and the steps I had taken to prevent recurrence. "Thank you for the transparency," their lead engineer said. "This actually gives us more confidence in the platform, knowing how quickly you addressed it." When I finally left the office at 11 the next morning, having worked through the night, several engineers who had witnessed my dedication stopped by to express their support. "We know who really builds and maintains this platform, Alan," a senior engineer told me, "and it is not the guy in the corner office." That afternoon, I received an unexpected visit from Diane. She closed my office door, a small glass cube that was a poor substitute for the executive office I should have had. "That was impressive work with Rapid Retail," she said without preamble. "Jason was telling the board we might lose the account until they called this morning to expand their contract." I simply nodded, too tired for games. "This situation is becoming untenable," she continued. "Jason is interviewing CTO candidates while Reynolds is holding firm on their demand. The board is split on how to proceed." "What is your position?" I asked directly. Diane considered me carefully. "I believe in making decisions that ensure company survival. Right now, that funding is survival." She stood to leave but paused at the door. "Emergency board meeting tomorrow at 10. You should prepare to present your case. Later that afternoon, I received a text from Amelia. How are you holding up? I gave her a brief update on the situation. Classic defensive maneuvers, she replied. Stay focused on the value you create. That is your strongest position. The next morning, I arrived early to find Jason showing someone around the office, a tall man in an expensive suit who exuded confidence. Armida Jason called with false enthusiasm. Come meet Wesley Graham. He is interviewing for our executive team. Wesley had an impressive resume. Stanford MBA executive roles at 2 well-known tech companies, the perfect pedigree for a CTO on paper. But as we spoke briefly about Technova's technology, it became clear he had only a surface-level understanding of what we were building. I specialize in scaling engineering organizations, he told me with practiced smoothness. The technical details I can pick up as we go. The board meeting began at 10 sharp. To my surprise, Michael and Amelia from Reynolds Capital were present along with our existing investors. Jason started with a presentation about organizational scaling needs that was clearly building a case against me. He then introduced Wesley, who gave a polished but generic presentation about technical vision and leadership. When it was my turn, I had no fancy slides or rehearsed speech. Instead, I pulled up our actual codebase and architecture diagrams. This is what I built, I said simply. This is the technology that impressed Reynolds Capital enough to offer $15 million. This is the system that our clients rely on for business-critical predictions. I walked them through the key innovations, the scaling challenges we had overcome, and most importantly, my vision for where the technology needed to go next. I spoke with the passion of someone who had poured their heart and soul into building something remarkable. As I concluded, Jason made his final move. What Armida has not mentioned is her history of project failures. At her previous company, an initiative under her leadership had to be completely scrapped. The room tensed. Jason clearly thought he had found my fatal flaw. That is correct, I acknowledged calmly. 5 years ago at Future Tech, I led a machine learning project that we ultimately abandoned. We were attempting something novel with the technology available then. It did not work. I learned invaluable lessons about when to persevere and when to pivot, about setting realistic technical milestones, and about transparent communication with stakeholders. Those lessons inform every decision I make today. Michael nodded slightly, seeming impressed with my response. Wesley, attempting to reassert his candidacy, began talking about his proven leadership framework for engineering organizations. Michael interrupted him. Can you explain specifically how you would approach the dimensional reduction problem in Technova's current architecture? Wesley stumbled through a generic answer that revealed his lack of technical depth. The tension in the room was palpable, as Jason made a final emotional appeal. Technova is my company. I founded it. I secured the initial funding. I set the vision. I brought all of you together. I deserve the right to build my executive team as I see fit. The room fell silent. Then Diane, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, spoke up. I have worked closely with both Jason and Armida for 2 years. Jason is a visionary founder who got us to where we are. But I have watched Armida quietly lead our technical organization with exceptional skill. When critical problems arise, she solves them. When technical direction is needed, she provides it. The engineers follow her because she has earned their respect through competence and dedication. Jason stared at her in shock, clearly feeling betrayed. The door opened and Alan, the senior engineer, entered unexpectedly. I apologize for interrupting, but my team asked me to speak on their behalf. We just heard that Armida's role is being discussed. We want to be clear that she has been our de facto technical leader for over a year. If the company does not formally recognize that, you risk losing not just her but many of us as well. Jason stood up, his face flushed with anger. This is insubordination. You cannot threaten the board this way. It is not a threat, Alan replied calmly. It is simply the reality of how our team functions. Michael Reynolds turned to Jason. I think we have heard enough perspectives. Let us take a vote on the CTO appointment. This is my company, Jason insisted, his voice rising. Actually, it belongs to the shareholders, Michael corrected gently, which includes your investors and your employees with stock options. Let us vote. I was asked to wait outside while the board deliberated. The next 20 minutes were the longest of my professional life. I paced the hallway, alternating between confidence in my value and anxiety about the politics at play. Finally, Diane opened the door and gestured for me to return. I entered the boardroom to find a strangely subdued atmosphere. Jason sat rigidly in his chair, staring straight ahead. The investors wore carefully neutral expressions. Michael Reynolds broke the silence. The board has voted unanimously to appoint you as Chief Technology Officer of Technova, effective immediately. I felt a rush of emotions: vindication, relief, anxiety, determination. The terms will be, as we discussed, Michael continued. Full executive compensation, appropriate equity adjustment board seat, and clear authority over technical strategy and the engineering organization. Our attorneys will work with the company to update the necessary documents. We expect to fund the $15 million within 2 weeks of completing the paperwork. Jason nodded stiffly, not meeting my eyes. Congratulations, Armida Diane, said her diplomatic mask, slipping just enough to show genuine approval. I look forward to working with you as a fellow executive. The meeting concluded with discussion of next steps and transition details. As people filed out, Jason finally looked at me, his expression unreadable. Without a word, he turned and left. I sat alone in the boardroom for several minutes, processing the enormity of what had just happened. After years of being undervalued and overlooked, I had finally been recognized for my contributions and abilities. But I knew the real challenges were just beginning. The following Monday, a company-wide email announced my appointment as CTO. The responses revealed the fault lines within Technova. The engineering team was enthusiastic, with many sending personal congratulations. Other departments were more reserved, particularly those closest to Jason. My first executive team meeting was tense but professional. Jason ran through the agenda, mechanically acknowledging my new role with minimal words. Trevor maintained a chilly distance. Amanda surprisingly offered cautious cooperation. Diane provided subtle support through her matter-of-fact treatment of my authority. As CTO, I will be restructuring some aspects of our engineering organization, I announced when it was my turn to speak. I will share detailed plans next week, but the focus will be on creating clearer ownership of key technical areas and establishing more transparent decision-making processes. Just ensure it does not disrupt our sales commitments, Jason said curtly. Engineering deliverables will be more reliable, not less, I responded calmly. But realistic timelines are part of that reliability. After the meeting, Trevor cornered me in the hallway. Jason built this company from nothing, he said accusingly. You could show more respect for that. I have enormous respect for what Jason created, I replied evenly. My job is to help build it into something even greater. I hope we can work together toward that goal. He did not look convinced, but at least the lines of communication were open. More surprising was Amanda asking to meet with me privately. As head of marketing, she and I had interacted mainly when she needed technical details, simplified for customer materials. I will be direct, she said when we sat down in my new office, formerly a conference room hastily converted to executive space. I did not support your promotion initially. I thought you were too technical, not enough of a leader. I waited, suspecting there was more to this conversation. But I was wrong, she continued. The way you handled the rapid retail crisis showed real leadership, and I respect that you did not throw Jason under the bus about the configuration changes, even though the logs clearly showed it was him. How do you know about the logs? I asked, surprised. She smiled slightly. Beth might have mentioned it. My point is, I would like us to work together effectively. Marketing needs better insight into the technical roadmap, and I suspect you need better communication about how we position our technology to clients. It was an unexpected alliance, but a welcome one. I would appreciate that collaboration, I agreed. Over the next few weeks, I focused on reshaping the engineering organization. I promoted Beth to engineering director, recognizing her technical skills and loyalty. I created technical lead positions for our core system components, giving talented engineers clear ownership and growth paths. I implemented the code review and testing practices I had been advocating for years, improving our system stability. Working with Jason remained challenging. In meetings, he would often interrupt my technical explanations or question decisions that were clearly within my domain. When speaking with clients, he occasionally made commitments without consulting me, creating unrealistic expectations about delivery timelines. I developed strategies for handling these situations. In meetings, I would calmly but firmly reclaim the conversation to continue my explanation. When Jason made unilateral promises, I would follow up with clients directly. I want to clarify our technical timeline to ensure we meet your expectations. Our most difficult period came during the launch of version 2.0 of our platform. This major update included a complete overhaul of our prediction engine, work I had been architecting for months. As the release date approached, the entire engineering team worked long hours to ensure everything was ready. I was in the office every day at 7 and rarely left before midnight, working alongside my team, debugging last-minute issues, and personally reviewing critical components. Jason would stop by occasionally asking for updates but offering little support. The night before launch, a critical integration test failed. The team and I worked through the night to identify and fix the issue. By morning, bleary-eyed but determined, we had resolved the problem and verified the system was ready. The launch was successful beyond our expectations. Client feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with several immediately requesting expanded implementations. Our largest client, Finance Pro, publicly credited our platform with identifying a market trend that saved them millions. At the success announcement, Jason predictably took center stage. "This milestone reflects the vision I have had for Technova from the beginning," he told the assembled company and press. I might have once shrunk from asserting my contribution, but no longer. When it was my turn to speak, I acknowledged Jason's vision while clearly establishing my role. Jason identified this market opportunity early, and I am proud that my technical architecture and our engineering team's execution have turned that vision into reality. Michael Reynolds, who attended the launch event, subtly redirected further questions about the technology to me, reinforcing my authority as CTO. Over the following months, my confidence in the role grew. I established new hiring practices that emphasized both technical excellence and cultural fit, improving our diversity in the process. I implemented a mentorship program for junior engineers, creating a supportive learning environment. I introduced technical brown bag lunches, where engineers could share knowledge and explore new ideas. The results were measurable. Our system stability improved dramatically, with unplanned downtime reduced by 87%. Development cycles shortened by 30%, while code quality metrics improved. Engineer retention increased, and we began attracting top talent from companies like Google and Facebook. Just as importantly, I found my voice as a technical leader. In board meetings, I presented our technical strategy with confidence, fielding difficult questions with ease. I developed relationships with key clients, becoming their trusted advisor on implementation and future needs. 6 months after my promotion, we closed another funding round at a significantly higher valuation. At the board meeting finalizing the investment, one of the new investors asked about our technical advantage over competitors. Jason looked at me. "Our brilliant CTO, Armida, can answer that better than anyone." The words sounded genuine, perhaps for the first time. Michael Reynolds, still on our board, gave me a subtle nod of recognition. The company had transformed, and so had I. 6 months after that fateful investor meeting, Technova was a different company. Our technical organization ran smoothly, with clear leadership and direction. Our platform had become the industry standard for predictive analytics, with a client list that included Fortune 500 companies and high-growth startups alike. My relationship with Jason had evolved into a functional professional partnership. We still disagreed at times, but there was a new basis of respect. He focused on business development and vision, his true strengths, while I led the technical direction. We had found a balance that served the company well. The transformation was not just organizational. I had changed too. The constant self-doubt, the need to prove myself again and again, the acceptance of less than I deserved, these had given way to a calm confidence in my abilities and worth. Regular mentoring sessions with Amelia Harrison proved invaluable. She guided me through the transition from technical expert to executive leader, helping me navigate both the practical challenges and the psychological aspects of the role. The hardest part for technical founders and leaders, she told me during one of our coffee meetings, is learning to value your strategic thinking as much as your technical abilities. Your time and attention are now your most precious resources. Allocate them thoughtfully. With her encouragement, I began working with an executive coach who helped me develop the presence and communication style needed for my new role. I learned to speak the language of business more fluently, to translate technical concepts for non-technical audiences without oversimplifying, and to advocate effectively for engineering needs at the executive level. My first industry speaking engagement came 3 months after becoming CTO. I presented our approach to scalable prediction systems at a major tech conference. The room was packed, and the questions afterward showed genuine interest in our innovations. A respected technical journal published a case study featuring our architecture, establishing Technova as a thought leader in the field. As our reputation grew, so did our ability to attract diverse technical talent. I took particular satisfaction in recruiting women and underrepresented minorities into technical roles, creating the kind of inclusive environment I wished I had experienced earlier in my career. The healing from years of being undervalued did not happen overnight. There were still moments when imposter syndrome would surface, times when I would question my decisions or hesitate to speak up. But these moments became less frequent and less powerful. I learned to accept praise and recognition appropriately, neither dismissing compliments nor letting them inflate my ego. I set healthier boundaries in professional relationships, no longer allowing others to take credit for my work or diminish my contributions. Most importantly, I reconnected with the passion for technology and innovation that had drawn me to this field in the first place. 1 year after my promotion, we held an investor pitch for a strategic partnership that would expand our platform internationally. As we prepared in the conference room, the same one where I had once been dismissed as a glorified sysadmin, Jason turned to me. "We have come a long way," he said with unusual reflectiveness. I did not handle things well back then. It was the closest thing to an apology I expected to get. "The company is stronger now," I replied simply. "That is what matters." When the potential partners arrived, Jason introduced me with genuine respect. "This is our brilliant CTO Armida, the technical visionary behind our platform." As I led the technical portion of the presentation, I noticed Michael Reynolds, still on our board and attending the meeting, give me a subtle nod of approval. The journey had come full circle. Beyond my personal growth, I found deep satisfaction in creating opportunities for others. I identified promising engineers whose talents had been overlooked, created clear paths for advancement, and ensured that credit was given where it was due. I established transparent promotion criteria based on actual contribution, rather than who spoke the loudest in meetings. I took particular interest in mentoring Sarah, a junior engineer facing challenges similar to what I had experienced. Brilliant but quiet, her ideas were often overlooked or appropriated by more assertive colleagues. I helped her develop strategies for being heard, without changing her fundamental nature for claiming credit appropriately and for recognizing her own value. "I would have left tech if not for you showing it can be different," she told me after successfully leading her first major project. When I reflected on the journey, several key lessons stood out. First, the importance of self-advocacy. For years I had hoped my work would speak for itself, that excellence would naturally be recognized and rewarded. I had learned the hard way that in most organizations you need to speak up for your contributions and assert your value clearly. Second, how to recognize subtle undermining. The dismissive comments, the stolen ideas, the exclusion from key meetings. These were not just personality conflicts, but systematic devaluation that I had allowed to continue too long. Third, the value of external validation. Sometimes it takes an outsider, in my case Michael and Amelia, to see and name the dynamics that those within a system have normalized. Their perspective had been the catalyst for change. Fourth, the critical importance of building alliances and support networks. Diane, Beth Allen, and eventually even Amanda had been essential to my successful transition to leadership. No significant change happens through one person alone. Fifth, finding the balance between assertiveness and collaboration. Leadership was not about dominating every conversation or decision, but about ensuring all voices were heard and the best ideas prevailed regardless of their source. Perhaps most importantly, I learned that having the courage to risk security for proper recognition often benefits not just the individual, but the entire organization. Technova was stronger, more innovative, and more successful with the right people in the right roles. Challenges remained, of course. Jason and I still had occasional territorial disputes over decisions that crossed the business-technical boundary. I sometimes faced skepticism from industry veterans who underestimated me until they understood the depth of my technical knowledge. Balancing hands-on technical work with executive responsibilities required constant adjustment. But these challenges no longer defined my professional experience. I had found my voice, my place, and my value. The most profound realization was that being truly valued begins with valuing yourself. For too long, I had accepted less than I deserved because I had internalized others' assessments of my worth. The technical skills, leadership abilities, and vision I brought to Technova had always been worthy of respect and recognition. I had simply needed to believe it myself before I could demand it from others. Standing firm had ultimately benefited everyone. The company was thriving with the right leadership structure. The engineering team was more productive and innovative. Even Jason had grown as a leader by focusing on his true strengths. And I had found a professional fulfillment that had once seemed impossible. As our latest product launch celebration wound down, a new engineer approached me. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. "I have worked at 3 startups, and this is the first where technical leadership is so clear and respected. It makes all the difference." Her words reminded me why this journey mattered beyond my personal vindication. By claiming my proper role, I had helped create an environment where technical excellence was valued, where contribution mattered more than politics, and where others could thrive without the struggles I had faced. Have you ever had to fight for recognition in your career? What strategies helped you overcome being undervalued? Share your experiences in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, your worth is not determined by others' perception, but by the value you know you create. Thank you for listening to my journey from glorified sysadmin to CTO. May it inspire you to advocate for your own worth in whatever field you pursue.